The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was old, very old. The conclave of stars had existed for 10,000 years. Every powerful species in the galaxy sent their leaders here to talk, to make deals, and to keep the peace. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the window of her small room. She looked at the stars and thought about Earth. She was far from home, farther than any human diplomat had ever traveled. Tomorrow she would speak to the Galactic Covenant. Tomorrow humanity would ask for a seat at the table of civilizations. She was 52 years old. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. Her gray hair was pulled back tight. Her dark eyes were calm. She was not afraid. She was proud. Her assistant, a young man named Thomas, knocked on her door. "Ambassador, it is time." Elena nodded. She put on her formal jacket. It was dark blue with gold buttons. On her chest, she wore a small pin shaped like Earth. She touched it once for luck. Then she walked out to meet the galaxy. The great hall of the conclave was massive. Elena had seen pictures, but pictures could not capture the size. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed near the top. Representatives from 37 species sat in their designated areas. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Elena could not understand how they moved or breathed. The HFY section was the largest. They were tall reptilian creatures with scales that shifted color when they moved. They had ruled galactic politics for thousands of years. Their empire controlled a quarter of known space. When they spoke, others listened. The high regent of the HFY sat on a raised platform. He was ancient. His scales had faded to a dull gray, but his eyes were sharp and cold. He watched Elena walk to the center of the hall. Elena felt those eyes on her like ice on her skin. She reached the speaking platform. A device translated her words into the languages of all species present. She took a deep breath and began. "My name is Elena Vasquez. I speak for Earth and all human colonies. We come here with open hands. We come here hoping to join your community of stars. We ask only for a chance to prove ourselves worthy." She spoke well. She talked about human history. She talked about their dreams for the future. She promised that humanity would be a good partner to all species. When she finished, there was silence. Then slowly, many species began to signal their approval. The insect-like Thrin clicked their legs together. The tall, thin Moravians bowed their long necks. Even some of the older races seemed impressed. But the HFY did not move. The High Regent's eyes never left Elena's face. A HFY official stood up. He was younger than the High Regent, with bright green scales. He walked toward Elena with slow, heavy steps. "The human speaks well," he said. His voice was like stones grinding together. "But words are cheap. What has humanity done to deserve a place among us?" Elena smiled calmly. "We have built 300 colonies in 2 centuries. We have developed technologies that even the elder races have found interesting. We have—" The HFY moved fast. Faster than Elena thought possible. His hand shot out and grabbed her arm. She felt a sharp pain, like a needle pushing into her skin. She looked down. A small device was attached to her arm. Already her fingers were going numb. "What have you done?" she whispered. The HFY stepped back. "We have given humanity its answer." Elena fell to her knees. The poison was moving through her body. She could feel it burning in her veins. Her vision was getting dark around the edges. Around the hall, representatives watched in shocked silence. Nobody moved to help her. Nobody spoke against the HFY. They were too afraid. Elena looked up at the High Regent. He watched her with no emotion on his ancient face. She understood then. This was not about anything she said. This was a message. Humanity was not welcome. Humanity would never be welcome. The HFY had decided this before she even arrived. Her neural implant was recording everything. Every human with access would see her final moments. She had to give them something. She had to give them words to remember. Don't let them break you, she said. Her voice was weak but clear. Don't let them make you small. Then Elena Vasquez, first human ambassador to the Galactic Covenant, died on the cold floor of the Great Hall. 37 species watched and did nothing. The Covenant ruled her death a regrettable incident. They offered Earth some money as payment for their loss. The Kethvari faced no punishment. They were too powerful, too important. Earth's remaining delegation was forced to leave the station under armed guard. They carried Elena's body home. 1 week later, the United Terran Congress met in emergency session. Every representative from every human world was present. They watched Elena's final moments together. They heard her last words. The vote was not close. It was unanimous. Earth declared war on the Kethavari Empire, not limited war, not careful war, total war. They would fight until the Kethavari Empire no longer existed. No peace talks, no negotiations, no mercy. The galaxy had taught humanity a lesson. Now humanity would teach one back. The galaxy laughed when Earth declared war. The Kethavari had the largest fleet in known space. They had crushed 17 species who challenged them over the centuries. Their ships numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Their soldiers were trained killers who had fought for generations. Humanity had existed as a spacefaring civilization for only 300 years. They were babies compared to the elder races. Their fleet was small. Their technology was borrowed from others. The Kethavari High Regent received the declaration of war while eating his morning meal. He read it once. Then he laughed so hard that food fell from his mouth. The insects think they can sting the giant, he said to his advisors. Let them come. We will crush them so completely that no one will remember they ever existed. But the High Regent made a mistake. He did not understand what humanity really was. Deep under the surface of Mars in laboratories that no alien had ever seen, human scientists worked day and night. They had spent years collecting pieces of alien technology through trade. Now they took those pieces apart and studied them. What they found shocked them. The galactic races had been using the same basic designs for tens of thousands of years. They had stopped improving. They had stopped inventing. Innovation was considered strange and unnecessary. Why change something that worked? Humans thought differently. They did not just copy alien technology. They made it better. Much better. Engineers who had grown up solving problems found countless ways to improve ancient designs. Young scientists asked questions that no one had asked for millennia. Why does the shield generator have to be so large? Asked one engineer. Why can weapons only fire in one direction? Asked another. Why can ships not be invisible to sensors? Nobody had answers, so the humans made their own. 18 months after the declaration of war, Earth shipyards produced the first of a new kind of vessel. They were smaller than Kethavari ships. They were faster. They could turn in ways that seemed impossible. Their weapons used principles that alien scientists said could not work. But the weapons worked. They worked very well. The other Covenant species watched Earth with growing worry. Intelligence agents sent reports back to their governments. The reports were hard to believe. Humans were building things that should not exist. The Kethavari admirals received the same reports. They laughed and called them lies. Human propaganda, they said. Tricks to scare children. No young species could advance so quickly. They were wrong. On a cold night in November, Earth's military launched Operation Ghost. 300 specially designed ships left human space and moved toward the Kethavari border. These ships carried new technology that humans called the Phantom Drive. The ships were invisible, not hidden behind planets or asteroids. Actually invisible. Sensors could not see them. They appeared as nothing more than small errors in equipment readings. Any officer who noticed them would assume their machines needed repair. The Ghost Fleet moved through Kethavari territory like shadows through darkness. 3 military stations guarded the border. Each one held thousands of soldiers and dozens of warships. They watched for any enemy approach. They never saw the humans coming. At exactly midnight station time, all three installations exploded. The attacks happened at the same moment, perfectly coordinated across many light years of space. There were no warnings, no alarms, no distress calls. One moment the stations existed. The next moment they were expanding clouds of broken metal and frozen bodies. The High Regent received the news while holding court. A messenger rushed in and whispered in his ear. The ancient reptile's scales turned pale gray. "How?" he demanded. "How did they reach our stations without being detected?" His intelligence officers had no answer. They had no explanation. They had nothing. For the first time in his long life, the High Regent felt something he did not recognize. It took him several minutes to understand what it was. It was fear. The galaxy began to pay attention. Representatives from many species requested meetings with human diplomats. They wanted to understand what was happening. How had the young species changed so quickly? Maria Vasquez, daughter of the murdered ambassador, met with some of them. She was calm and polite. But there was ice in her eyes that had not been there before her mother died. "You watched my mother die," she told one group of alien diplomats. "You did nothing. Now you want to talk to us?" "We want peace," they said. "We want to help negotiate an end to this conflict." Maria smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "There will be no negotiation. There will be no peace, not until we are finished." "Finished with what?" they asked. "With the HFY Empire," she said. "When we are done, it will not exist anymore." The diplomats left the meeting in silence. They reported to their governments that humanity had changed. The friendly young species that had asked for acceptance was gone. Something harder had taken its place. Something that the galaxy had created when it stood by and watched Elena Vasquez die. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the TSS Remembrance. The ship was humanity's new flagship. Its name was chosen carefully. They would not forget. They would never forget. Around him, officers worked at their stations. They were young and old, from every human world. They had all volunteered for this war. Many had lost family or friends in HFY attacks on human colonies. All of them had watched Elena Vasquez die. Chen Wei was 60 years old. He had gray hair and a face lined by years of service. His eyes were dark and calm. He had been a teacher at the military academy before the war. Now he commanded the largest fleet humanity had ever built. He addressed his senior officers in the war room. "Today we establish the Terran Doctrine," he said. "This will guide how we fight. Listen carefully." The officers leaned forward. "The HFY killed our ambassador under a flag of peace. They murdered her while 37 species watched. They showed no mercy. They followed no rules. Therefore, we will follow only the rules they have established." He paused to let his words sink in. "We will not target civilian populations directly. We are not monsters. But we will destroy everything that supports their war machine. Supply lines, communication systems, military factories, government buildings. We will take apart their empire piece by piece." One officer raised her hand. "Sir, what about when they surrender?" Chen Wei's face did not change. "The HFY admiral who murdered Ambassador Vasquez has never been punished. He still serves in their fleet. Until their leadership answers for their crimes, we will not accept surrender from their military forces." The room was silent. Everyone understood what this meant. "Are there questions?" Chen Wei asked. There were none. The Terran Doctrine went into effect immediately. Human forces stopped attacking randomly. They attacked with purpose. Every target was chosen for maximum impact on the HFY war effort. Within weeks, supply problems appeared throughout the HFY Empire. Ships ran low on fuel. Soldiers on distant bases ran out of food. Communication between star systems became difficult, then almost impossible. The High Regent was furious. He ordered his admirals to crush the humans once and for all. Three massive battle fleets, carrying over 40,000 ships, moved toward the human colony on New Brisbane. New Brisbane was a farming world. It had only a small defense force. The Kethvari expected easy victory. They would destroy the colony and send a message to all humans. Admiral Chen Wei was waiting for them. The New Brisbane system had an asteroid field. Millions of rocks, some as big as mountains, floated in a wide belt around the outer planets. The Kethvari fleet had to pass through it. Human scientists had spent months preparing. They had placed gravity generators on hundreds of asteroids. These machines could change how gravity worked in a small area. They could push or pull objects with incredible force. As the Kethvari fleet entered the asteroid field, the trap activated. Rocks that had floated peacefully for millions of years suddenly moved. They accelerated toward the enemy ships with impossible speed. Some asteroids were a kilometer wide. They hit Kethvari warships like hammers hitting eggs. The alien admiral screamed orders. His ships tried to shoot the asteroids, but there were too many. They tried to retreat, but more rocks came from behind. The entire asteroid field had become a weapon. In 2 hours, the Kethvari lost over 25,000 ships. They had not fired a single shot at a human target. The surviving admiral sent a message of surrender. He begged for mercy. He offered to withdraw all remaining ships and never return. Admiral Chen Wei read the message. He thought about Elena Vasquez dying on that cold floor. He thought about her last words. "Respond to the Kethvari admiral," he told his communications officer. "Tell him we have studied their culture carefully. We have learned how they treat defeated enemies. We will treat them the same way." The officer hesitated. "Sir, they are asking for mercy." "So did Ambassador Vasquez," Chen Wei said quietly. "So did every species the Kethvari have conquered in 90,000 years. Did they show mercy?" The officer lowered his head. "No, sir." "Then neither will we." The remaining Kethvari ships tried to escape. Human vessels, faster and more maneuverable, hunted them down. Every ship was destroyed. Every escape pod was targeted. When the Battle of New Brisbane ended, not a single Kethvari survived. The galaxy watched recordings of the battle with horror. This was not how wars were fought. Even the most brutal species accepted surrender eventually. What the humans had done was unprecedented. The Moravian ambassador sent a protest to Earth. "You have committed terrible crimes. You have murdered soldiers who were trying to surrender. This is against all laws of civilized warfare." Maria Vasquez answered him personally. "Where was civilized warfare when my mother died? Where were your protests then? Where were your laws?" Her voice was cold and steady. "You made the rules of this game when you did nothing. Now you must live with how we play it." The Moravian had no response. Throughout the galaxy, species that had ignored Elena Vasquez's murder began to feel afraid. They had thought humanity was weak. They had thought the young species would accept its place. They had been very, very wrong. 2 years into the war, the Kethvari Empire was dying. No species in galactic history had ever seen anything like it. The Kethvari had ruled for 90,000 years. They had crushed every enemy. They had never known defeat. Now they were learning. Human forces moved through their territory like fire through dry grass. They did not conquer planets in the traditional way. They did not occupy cities or take prisoners. They simply destroyed everything that gave the Kethvari power. Military bases disappeared in flashes of light. Government buildings fell into rubble. Statues of ancient Kethvari heroes were reduced to dust. Shipyards that had built warships for thousands of years became fields of broken metal. But the human soldiers never hurt civilians. When they captured a city, they gave food to the hungry. They treated the sick. They protected the children and the elderly. This confused the Kethvari people. They had been told that humans were savage monsters. They expected torture and slavery. Instead, they found soldiers who were firm but fair, who showed kindness even to their enemies' families. "Why do you not kill us?" asked one old Kethavari woman. Human soldiers had just destroyed the government center of her city. She stood in the ruins, watching them work. A young human sergeant stopped and looked at her. His face was tired. He had been fighting for months without rest. "Because you did not kill Ambassador Vasquez," he said. "Your leaders did. Your military did. You are not our enemy." The old woman did not understand. "But we are Kethvari. We are all the same." The sergeant shook his head. "No, you are people who want to live in peace. We have no quarrel with you. When this war is over, you will still be here. Your leaders will not." The old woman thought about this for a long time. Across the empire, similar scenes played out. Human forces punished the powerful but protected the weak. They were teaching a lesson that the Kethvari had never learned. Strength does not have to mean cruelty. The High Regent grew desperate. He called his remaining admirals to the capital. "We must destroy the human world," he said, his voice cracked with age and fury. "Release the biological weapons. Kill them all." His advisors exchanged nervous looks. Biological weapons were forbidden by galactic law. Using them would turn every species against the Kethavari. But the High Regent did not care anymore. He wanted revenge. 3 weeks later, Kethavari ships dropped canisters on human colony worlds. The canisters contained deadly diseases designed to kill only humans. Millions of people became sick. Thousands died in the first days. Earth's medical teams worked desperately to find cures. Human scientists studied the diseases and created treatments. They saved most of the infected. Then they did something the Kethvari did not expect. Human scientists modified the diseases. They made new versions that would only affect Kethvari. They loaded these new weapons onto missiles. Admiral Chen Wei did not hesitate. "If they use biological weapons against our civilians, we will use them against their military. Launch the missiles at every Kethvari base we can reach." The missiles flew. Kethvari soldiers on hundreds of military installations began to die. The diseases spread through their barracks and their ships. The symptoms were terrible, but humans only targeted military bases, not cities, not farms, not schools. The civilian population was spared. The message was clear. Whatever the Kethavari did to humanity, humanity would do back to them, but only to those who fought. The Galactic Covenant called an emergency meeting. Representatives from every species demanded that both sides stop using biological weapons. Maria Vasquez stood before them. She was older now. The war had put gray in her hair and steel in her spine. "You call this meeting now?" she asked. "Where was your emergency meeting when the Kethvari attacked our colonies with disease? Where were your demands for peace then?" The representatives shifted uncomfortably. "We want to help end this conflict," said the Moravian leader. "We offer to remove the Kethvari from the Covenant. We offer to punish them for their crimes. Please, just accept peace." Maria looked at each representative in turn. "You watched my mother die. You called it an incident. You offered us money as if her life was something that could be bought." Her voice was quiet, but it filled the entire chamber. "It is too late for your help. We will finish what they started." "What does that mean?" asked a nervous Thrin official. "It means the Kethvari Empire will end. Their fleet will be destroyed. Their military will be dissolved. Their leaders will answer for their crimes." Maria paused. "The Kethvari people will survive. We are not like them. We do not destroy entire species, but their power will be broken forever." The chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported humanity. Others feared them. All of them understood that the galaxy was changing. When Maria left the Covenant, she carried no promise of peace, only a warning. Humanity had been pushed too far. Nothing would stop them now except total victory. Kethavara Prime hung in the darkness of space like a jewel. It was the homeworld of an empire that had lasted 90,000 years. Billions of Kethavari lived on its surface. Their greatest cities covered entire continents. Their temples and monuments reached toward the sky. For thousands of generations, no enemy fleet had ever threatened this world. The Kethavari believed it was impossible. Their navy was too strong. Their defenses were too powerful. That belief died on a cold morning in March. Admiral Chen Wei commanded 300 human ships. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Ahead of them waited the largest defensive fleet ever assembled. Over 2,000 Kethavari warships protected their sacred homeworld. The mathematics should have been simple: 2,000 against 300. The humans should have been destroyed within hours, but mathematics does not account for human determination. Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the Remembrance. His officers waited for his orders. Many of them would not survive this day. They all knew it. None of them cared. "Begin the attack," he said quietly. Human ships surged forward. They were faster than anything the Kethavari had ever seen. They moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually carefully planned. They split into small groups, then came together, then split again. The Kethavari fired their weapons, space filled with energy beams and explosive projectiles. Some human ships died, but most dodged and weaved through the fire like dancers avoiding raindrops. Then humanity revealed its new weapons. Directed energy cannons fired beams so powerful they cut through Kethavari shields like sunlight through fog. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles broke apart in seconds. The ancient defensive systems that had protected Kethavari Prime for generations meant nothing against human technology. But the Kethavari were not finished. They had numbers on their side. For every ship they lost, they destroyed a human vessel. Slowly, they began to push back. Admiral Chen Wei made a decision that would be discussed for centuries. "Launch the volunteer squadrons," he ordered. Across the human fleet, small ships detached from larger carriers. Each one held a single pilot. Each one carried enough antimatter to destroy a small moon. These pilots had volunteered knowing they would not return. They had written letters to their families. They had made peace with their choices. They flew toward the enemy fleet with steady hands and clear eyes. The Kethavari tried to stop them. They shot down many, but some got through. When a volunteer ship reached a Kethavari formation, its pilot triggered the antimatter. The explosions were like small suns being born. Each one destroyed dozens of enemy ships. The Kethavari formation shattered. On the bridge of his flagship, the Kethavari High Admiral watched his fleet die. He was the most experienced military commander in the Empire. He had won battles against 17 different species. He had never lost. He was losing now. "These humans," he whispered, "they sacrifice themselves willingly. How do you fight an enemy that is not afraid to die?" His officers had no answer. 11 hours after the battle began, it ended. The Kethavari fleet was gone. Broken ships floated in expanding clouds of debris. Nothing remained that could fight. Admiral Chen Wei ordered his surviving ships into orbit around the homeworld. Below them, billions of Kethavari looked up at the sky. They waited for the bombardment. They had seen what their own people did to conquered worlds. They expected fire to rain down and burn their cities to ash. Instead, human shuttles descended peacefully. Soldiers landed in perfect formation. They carried weapons but did not fire. They marched to the imperial palace. The High Regent waited in his throne room. He was very old now. The stress of the war had weakened him further. He sat alone. His guards had fled. Chen Wei walked in and stood before him. "It is over," the admiral said. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your military is broken. Your empire ends today." The High Regent laughed weakly. "So you will kill me now? Like we killed your ambassador?" Chen Wei shook his head. "No, you will stand trial. You will answer for your crimes in front of the entire galaxy. Every species will see what happens to those who murder innocents and think they can escape justice. Human soldiers arrested the High Regent. They arrested every official who had participated in Ambassador Vasquez's murder. They destroyed every military installation on the planet. But they hurt no civilians. They burned no cities. They killed no innocents. When the trials were over, the guilty were punished. The Kethavari Empire was dissolved forever. Their military was reduced to a small defense force. They would never threaten another species again. Admiral Chen Wei broadcast a message to the galaxy. Humanity came in peace. We asked only for a chance to join your community. You showed us who you truly were. The Kethavari showed us through murder. The rest of you showed us through silence. He paused. His voice was calm but carried the weight of everything humanity had suffered and sacrificed. We choose to be civilized. We choose restraint. We let the Kethavari people live because we are not like them. But never mistake our mercy for weakness. Never test us again. The galaxy received his message. Every species heard it. 50 years later, humanity held 3 seats on the Galactic Covenant. No species had threatened a human world or citizen. The Kethavari survived as a minor power, slowly rebuilding under peaceful guidance. On the anniversary of Elena Vasquez's death, every human colony observed a moment of silence. Then they returned to their work, exploring, building, reaching for the stars. They had proven something important. Humanity was not a species that looked for war, but when war was forced upon them, they finished it, on their terms, in their way. The stars belonged to everyone now, and everyone remembered the lesson that humanity had taught. Peace is precious, justice matters, and some species should never be pushed too far.